Hi everyone, hope you're doing alright, hope you're keeping safe and I hope you're keeping sane. Now in this series of videos I am looking at addressing and talking about various gambling myths, various gambling fallacies in various forms and formats of gambling. But there is one form of gambling, there's one type of gambling, one type of gambler where fallacies and myths are perpetuated more than probably all the others combined. And that is the humble pub fruit machine, the humble AWP, the machine that sits in the corner of the pub with all the lights flashing, your 3 reels, just enticing you to put a couple of quid in and try your luck. Now the difference between these machines and other formats of gambling, without getting too boring, is that these machines are percentage controlled. They are by law required to pay out a minimum RTP of 70% over the payout cycle of the machine. And so whereas many other games are random, and they're not the ones I'm talking about in this video, these machines are obligated by law and by regulation to pay out a certain amount or a certain percentage, minimum 70%, within their payout cycle. And this has led invariably to a huge number of myths and rumours and misconceptions, ones that extend well beyond the drunk bloke at the end of the bar telling you to nudge your lemons or hold your bells, or well, at least I hope that's what he meant anyway. So let's start with the obvious one. It's full, people say. The machine's full, it's backing, it's dropping, the money's going over the back, and all the other multifarious terms we heard, basically meaning that you stuck a pound coin in and it's gone drop, plopped into the cash box at the bottom. Now, this is one of the few myths and rumours and legends and whatever you want to call them that actually has some basis in truth. If we go back probably to the 80s or 90s, possibly even the early part of the 2000s, fruit machines weren't being refilled daily. And so what happened is, if you put a pound coin in the machine and the tubes were full back in the day, or the hoppers as they later became, it meant that nobody had taken any pound coins out of that machine that day. Which was great, because it meant that the machine hadn't paid out, and assuming it had taken some money, it means that there was a good chance that the machine had maybe dropped a little bit below percentage or behind its target percentage, and there was a possibility, or certainly at least increased possibility, that you could win out of that machine. It was, for some, and for a period of time, a reasonable measure. But this has been thrown so far out of kilter, it has become completely pointless, completely useless. And I'll start with the bit I mentioned just a little while ago, and that's daily refills. Pub companies, breweries, and machine suppliers now insist quite regularly on daily refills. It helps them keep up to date with their auditing, so they know how much money machines have taken or have paid out. But also it has the either intentional or unintentional side effects of potentially tricking people who listen out for machines being full. You go into a major pub brand or go into a pub where the machines are supplied by one of the bigger suppliers, so your GameStechs and all of that sort of thing, and you put a pound in first thing in the morning, there's a very, very high chance that machine will be considered full. The money will be falling through to the bottom, and that's because they will have ordered it, they would have refilled the tubes or the hoppers, or tubes, blimey, I'm going back, refilled the hoppers to the full level, so any extra money would go over the back, rendering this completely useless. And this is completely disregarding the crafty little bits of technology that some of the big machine manufacturers started putting in their games. Red Gaming, a subsidiary of Barcrest, started making it so the first £5 coins you put in after a certain time had elapsed went straight through to the bottom to trick people into thinking that the machine was full. Barcrest, not Barcrest, I just talked about them, Belfruit and Mazuma, they went one further. They couldn't be bothered with all this fancy technology. They just stuck a little light on the front of the cabinet that said cash full, in an attempt, and unfortunately from what I'd heard and seen around pubs, quite a successful attempt in lulling people in to thinking that the machine was full of cash and probably ready to pay out. Nowadays, what with notes and daily refills and all this other stuff, it's a complete nonsense. It doesn't mean anything, and actually it causes more harm than good, because you're expecting to get something back when a machine is full, but in reality it's not going to happen. Which brings me on to my next point. There was always a rumour, and I had a friend who swore by this, even though he lost every time he played on the fruit machines, that if you don't collect the money out of the bank, you've got more chance of winning. If you don't collect the money out of the bank, the fruit machine doesn't realise that it's paid that money out. It basically doesn't count it. This was the theory. It doesn't count it towards its payout percentage until that money had physically come out into the payout tray in the bottom. Now, I'm sure the vast majority of people know that this is absolute nonsense. The computer inside the machine basically calculates the percentage, calculates the payout the second you collect the win, and it goes into the bank. So leaving that money in the bank, all that does is draw attention to you when you finally do collect that money out, because you've got this cascade of coins coming out, and all the drunkards standing near the bar going, "Oh, it's your round, mate." It does get tedious, doesn't it? And all it means as well is that there's an increased likelihood of, when you do finally collect your money out, that there's some sort of coin jam, some sort of error, and a bigger IU than you would have had otherwise, and then you have to wait 2 or 3 weeks and various trips to the pub and phone calls to the whatever to try and get your money back. So leaving your money to bank up and count up in the bank is a complete waste of time. Of course, there are people who did this because they wanted that attention. They're the ones that, when they were collecting the bank out of the fruit machine, regardless of how much they'd won or lost, they would sit there with their finger on the collect button, and while the coins were going plop, 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 plop into the tray, they were looking around, little smug look on their face, wouldn't they, thinking they're the bee's knees because they'd collected some money out of a fruit machine. Obviously, we'd all been there in the background having our pints casually, watching them feed note after note after note in, but that didn't mind. They felt they were king of the world. Where was I? Ah, yes. Playing with notes against coins. This is, again, a slight variation on the theme. But there's always someone who said, well, no, it counts the coins. It counts the coins in and out. So if you play with notes, or it doesn't affect the payout at all. You know, whether you play with notes, whether you play with coins, whether eventually you end up probably playing with contactless payment, which I'm sure they're trying to creep through at the moment, then it doesn't matter a jot. The machine credits the money the second you put the credits into the bank, regardless of the format of payment you've used to get that money in there. All that happens if you play with notes instead of coins, not so much now because more machines are paying out notes, but back in the day, you played with notes instead of coins, you went in with a wedge full of notes, nobody heard you put any money in, but all that happened is you ended up with a whole load of coins coming out, once again drawing attention to yourselves, likely to get both the attention of the drunkards at the end of the bar who want you to buy them a beer, the random bloke who's always loitering in the background who wants you to lend him a tenner even though you've never seen him before and will never see him again, and most importantly, the bar management, the pub landlord, who will probably ban you from being a fruit machine professional even if you've done your absolute crust. So don't do any of those things. It doesn't affect the way the machines pay out at all. Then comes on to the next one, sharking, loitering, watching other people play. This idea that someone's been playing a fruit machine for ages, and you hear it even now, you hear it in pubs. Oh, someone comes in who they know has a pun. Oh, that guy's been playing that machine for ages. It's got to be worth a go. It's incredibly misguided. As we talked about in the top end of this video, machines are percentage controlled. They're based on cycles. They're based on an average percentage which fluctuates. And if it's behind the percentage, if it's not paid out enough in that cycle, yes, the machine is likely to be a little bit more generous. If it's been pushed above that percentage by a big win, then the machine will probably be on the take a little bit. But the amount of time that the person before you has spent playing the machine is irrelevant. Time is irrelevant. It's what happened in that session. If someone is playing and put £10 in and they collect £8 out, then they've technically pushed that machine theoretically above the 70% threshold. And if they repeat that time and time again, they can actually be getting what is considered a good play from the machine in percentage RTP terms. But they could be pushing that, like I say, pushing it above the RTP, but they could be losing their money. And the longer they play, the more they're going to lose, because ultimately the machine is only designed to pay out X percentage. So someone can stand on a machine and lose a whole load of money and spend hours and hours playing it and leave the machine in a worse state than when they started playing it. They could go on there and they could win very quickly because the machine has a bit of value in it. But by the time they leave, they've recycled and recycled and recycled, and the machine's taken that 30% and taken that 30%, taken that 30%, and they've walked off skin. The guy that's been watching him thinks he's lost a fortune, and maybe he has in cash terms. But maybe he's had more than that advertised 70, 72%, whatever, RTP out the machine over the play. But he still walked away skint, because ultimately, if you play for long enough, you're going to end up walking away without any money. And the dangerous thing with this as well, particularly with modern fruit machines, is it used to be a case of you played the machine and you could get quite a good feel. And this is actually partly what we did. You get quite a good feel for how ready it was. You play a couple of features on it and you can see immediately whether the game is stopping you getting a win over £2, it's stopping you getting a win over a £5, or maybe it's going above that and, offering to give you £10 or £8, in which case you think, well, actually, I can crack on from here. I can keep playing this, I can maybe force it, or I can play for certain features or whatever. But machine companies have got wise to that. And machines will now throw in randomly half decent wins to entice people in. So you can't even work on that theory anymore. So trying to watch people play, it will get you no advantage. All it will do is single you out as one of those, and you don't want to be one of those. Trust me. If you are a professional fruit machine player, and I really hate using that term, then you're not the one standing there or sitting, lurking in the background, having a little casual eye, keeping an eye on what people are doing. That is a very, very flawed method. A few honourable mentions here in the fruit machine fallacies. I'm sure I've missed some, so chuck them in the comments below if you know of any fruit machine fallacies you'd like me to talk about. Unfortunately for my sins, this is a bit of a specialist subject of me. People used to talk about the speed of play, that if you played a machine quick enough, it somehow confused the machine. And this is normally, this was normally reserved, to be fair, of the chavs in their hoodies and tracksuits and baseball caps down at the Seaside Arcade, smashing the hell out of the fruit machine buttons, because they thought it made them look cool, or playing two at once like that. Do you remember that? Yes, how cool were we, eh? A classic one, if you're an old school fruit machine player, was the reset code. The fabled reset code, mainly on Mayday games where you push the whole buttons in a certain sequence. I think it was 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, was it? Maybe something like that. And one of the buttons, the middle whole button flashed, and someone said, "Yeah, it's reset. It's reset the percentage. It's going to make it pay out now." It didn't do that. For anyone who's interested, it's a data dump code. It's so the engineers with their little handheld devices could go around and collect all the, the money in, money out information without having to open the machine up in broad daylight, where they're likely to get mugged by said chavs that were smashing the buttons of the machines a little while ago. And my final honourable mention, and on the basis I don't think from my YouTube analytics there are any old women who watch my videos, but if you are an old woman who's watching my videos, don't hit the whole buttons on party times. It does nothing. It doesn't increase your chance of getting a feature. It doesn't increase your chance of getting a repeat on the feature. It just makes you look a bit of a mug, and it slowly wears out the buttons and causes a nightmare for the poor engineer who has to come around and replace them all the time. Important thing, this has been a bit of a light-hearted video. Important thing before I go, basically don't play fruit machines in pubs. The RTPs are awful. If there's something that's doable on a machine, whether it's profitable, I'm out the loop now, but if it's something that's profitable, someone will be doing it, I assure you of that. And also, this video and its slightly throwaway content applies only to the old school compensated fruit machines, generally the ones with reels, the ones with the digital cabinets with the various games on it, like the blueprint ones and the iPubs and all of that. Some of the games are compensated, a lot of them are random, in which case none of this matters anyway. You've got as much chance as the next man, and if you're going to play those, don't, would be my simple advice, because they're blooming awful. They're basically scaled down, scaled back, low RTP, rubbish rebrands of FOB-T games and of online casino slots. And they're definitely worth giving a wide berth to. I'm sure there's myths I've missed, in which case maybe we can have a chat about it in my next live stream, whenever that happens to be. Hit subscribe and put the notification bell on if you want to be notified when I'm going to go live. We'll have a little bit of a Q&A. More importantly, I think, particularly at the moment, we'll just have a little bit of a chat, can't we? And I get to sort of, actually talk directly to some of you guys rather than just this way. But thanks for watching. If you've got any gambling fallacies you want me to talk about, like I said, chuck it in the comments section. But until next time, keep safe, keep sane, and of course, I will catch you on the next one. Peace out.